I want to know where I'm from. I want to join in the women's song. I want to feel the red earth under my feet as we dance with one heartbeat. Thanks for letting me share that with you. That's the first part of the most recent song that I've written called Reclamation Song. And it's very much a song inspired by my own current state of reclamation. Reclamation of my history, my culture, my place, space, and my personal power. Trauma is in the very DNA of all of us. All of the lived experiences of our ancestors, all of this courses through our DNA and in our present. Trauma started generations ago in my family. Stolen children upon stolen children, disconnection, substance abuse, violence, and poverty. When my mum was 2 years old, she became a part of the stolen generations in this country. It was assimilation policy era, and she was a fair-skinned Aboriginal baby. Thinking about mum makes me think about cups of tea, and I want to share with you the recipe for the perfect cup of tea according to my mum. And I'd appreciate some nods if it's the same recipe for you. So you have to start off with a very neutral coloured cup. So it can't be a blue or green. These coloured cups actually affect the flavour. It's true. Then you grab 2 tea bags, 2 very generous teaspoons of sugar, add the hot water and let it brew, like really brew. Once it's looking nice and strong, grab the spoon, squeeze those tannins out on the side of the cup, and then you must remove the tea bags. Then, and only then, can you add the milk and stir. Does that sound familiar to anyone else? It makes me go back to a time some years ago when I went to visit my mum, and she was living in Adelaide, and I travelled from Canberra to see her, as I often did. And I was up for a cup of tea duty. In my house, if you were on tea duty, it was often a pretty big job because there was usually a lot of people in the house. So I was there with all the cups, doing the thing, and Mum comes up to me and says, "You've got to take the bags out." I'd left the tea bags in and I'd started putting milk in. And it started this massive discussion with everyone that was in the house that day. Lots of laughter. I mean, she was doing it with a bit of a cheeky smile, as was her way. But through much laughter and discussion, we all agreed that Mum's way of making tea was the perfect way. And even now, I have to agree, there was nothing quite like a cup of Mum's tea. It was always full of love and kindness, and always served up with a listening ear and a warm heart. Something about those teas they were like love in a cup, and they really were the one true constant in a world of chaos. throughout my childhood, the domestic violence, the moving, the fear, the anxiety, the just getting by. All of this happened throughout my childhood up until my teens. And I look back now and I see I was a pretty awkward kid. Never really felt like I really fit in anywhere. Very insecure, shy, and sometimes I still am some of those things. But then as I got bolder, flip that, as I got older, I got bolder. I first moved out of home when I was 17, and at the time it wasn't without mixed feelings and a fair bit of guilt. Moving on to my 20s, early 20s, is when I arrived in Canberra. It's quite a while ago now. And moving to Canberra was a very bold move. I moved away from Perth, away from everything that I'd ever known. And I'd never even visited Canberra. I just got on a plane, followed a dream at the time, and here I landed. And it was the place where I felt that I really started to really carve out my own existence here. With no family, no familiar places or faces, it was a place to really assert me. And so I worked and really started to feel a very strong connection and sense of community here. I also was in the Army Reserve for a number of years, and many good friends that I made when I first got to Canberra that I still have to this day, 20 odd years later. From that point, working and living here and living that independent lifestyle, I then had to travel overseas. It was a long-standing dream of mine, and I knew that nothing else could really happen in life until I'd actually seen some of the world. It was one of those big burning things in me that I needed to see what was on the other side. So therein started my 2 years of living, working, travelling overseas. And it was really then that I really felt that unfurling and that coming out of my shell that much more. The feeling of being in a place where you're completely free to do and be whatever you want to be. And that liberation just was something that I can't compare to anything else I've ever experienced. And definitely one of the times where I felt most alive. During that time is also when I started to really tap into my musicality, and I was singing, albeit very quietly and shyly, but I started writing my own songs and playing them on the open mic circuits of London. Along my travels, there were a lot of times where I sat and really had moments of reflection that sometimes triggered what I now know as intergenerational trauma. And one of those times was my first trip to Paris. And I've been there a few times. My very first trip. And we get to the stairs. I'm sure they've got a fabulous name. Can't think of it right now. And there in front of me was the Eiffel Tower, lit up at night beautifully. And I just stood there with tears in my eyes. And it was beautiful, but that's not why I had tears in my eyes. It made me think about how far away I was from my family. It made me think about what Mum was doing and what everyone was doing, and how far removed I was standing in Paris, just seeing this beauty and thinking about it in the context of all I'd seen and experienced as a young person. So it was just one of those really surreal moments that was a bit of a a bit of a reality check and a bit of a reminder, I guess, of just how far I'd come. And I draw that same parallel to today, standing here talking to you. Definitely not something I ever thought that I'd do. Anyway, I want to go back and share a little bit more about my mum, because there's a lot of things that, when we get further along, you'll see the parallels between my lived experience and hers. She was an amazing collector of things. And every single garden she ever had was this weird menagerie of broken plates and sparkly things and toys on the branches of the tree. And as a kid, or even as a teenager, I remember seeing some of these places we lived in, and I'd just be a bit cringe about it. And the same with her amazing, what I now see as her amazing ability to fix things. Mum could fix a car. She could get a car going. She could fix a tap. She could, anything you can think of, she could do it. Make it work, make it happen. And my siblings and I talk about it now as Mum Genuity. And that's our little, we say that to each other. We have our little regular FaceTimes, and we know that someone's done something really good. We've used a bit of Mum Genuity today. And the other thing that I really marvel at is the way she operated as a mother of 6, to always make sure that we never went without. There was a lot of times growing up where my siblings and I would look in the cupboards or the fridge and not really see anything that would really obviously resemble dinner. But every night there would be a big pot of something amazing with some rice and damper to go with it. And even today, that's still one of my real comfort foods. That brings me to me and the present day. I'm a mum now, and so much of the magic and things that mum infused into our childhood are things that I see myself doing now with my own kids. Things like going on a walk, seeing a colourful beetle, collecting treasures that we find along the way. I've got jars and jars of pebbles and leaves at home that my kids and I have collected on our travels. Making a wish on a dandelion is one of our big family rituals. And all of these things were just little bits of joy in amongst some pretty incomprehensible chaos. The other thing that springs to mind about Mum is the creativity, and that's something that, for me, as a writer, a singer, a painter, they're all very powerful instruments of healing. And for me, the catharsis and the joy in emoting and being able to bring an idea or an emotion or a memory or a story to life is just so powerful. That power of creativity and healing and transforming the trauma into something beautiful. So there's a few things I want to leave with you today. Yes, trauma started a long time ago in my family. But I also come from a very long lineage of artists and writers and singers and creatives, teachers, nurses, speakers, and musicians. It's not always easy, but being open and vulnerable is just such a powerful opportunity to open yourself up to the healing power of creativity. I think about the legacy that my mother has left behind. Mum passed away 4 years ago at the age of 61, and there were no material heirlooms to leave behind. Not that any of us kids were really interested in that. But the love and compassion and care and kindness, they're just priceless heirlooms that she's left in the heart of all of us. I'd like to leave you with a little bit more of my song, Reclamation Song. Proud Noongar yoga, strong as can be, going back to claim my ancestry, learning stories of culture and land. We're all in this together. Come take my hand. Come take my hand. Come take my hand. Thank you.